A very, very big welcome to everybody that is joining us live on this webinar, and also to anybody that's watching us on playback as well. My name is Geoff Baxter, and I'm part of Smart Society, and we are the grant administrators, the very proud grant administrators for the Business Growth Grant scheme, which is being run by Rochford District Council. And this is a really fantastic scheme, a really great opportunity for local businesses to put forward an application to show just what they will be able to do with the grant, which will enable them to grow. Just to explain a little bit about our role as the grant administrators. So grants are quite complicated processes, and we are a provider of the administration services behind that, and we will run the application process. We will manage all of the queries and make sure that it's run in a proper way. We do not select the applicants or select the awardees. So we can't help you with regards to that, and we can't assist your grant application as well. So just recognise that when you're communicating with us. But any help that you need, we will provide you with all the contact details in terms of how you can get in contact with us and just make sure that you're supported through the process. So just the plan of what we're going to be covering off today. We've got a quick introduction, and then we'll jump into talking through the key dates, and the dates of the grant scheme are really important because we want to make sure that you're fully aware of when you need to have your application in, and then what's going to happen after that in terms of the consideration process and then the award. We'll talk through how you can apply for the grant and how the grants are going to be assessed in the next steps, and then we'll have a Q&A session after that, and we expect the webinar to take broadly about 20 to 30 minutes. So just a quick introduction to the grant scheme. So the grant scheme is part of a funding stream from the UK government called the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. And the UK Shared Prosperity Fund funding ends at the end of March. And this is the final chunk of funding for Rochford District Council. The idea behind this is that a lot of businesses, when businesses are asked about what they want and what would really help them, grant schemes are something that come up extremely highly alongside other business support requirements, because it allows businesses to invest in services or equipment or processes that will then help them to take forward. And that's the reason why Rochford District Council have decided to go down the process of this. The grant scheme is a really, really exciting scheme. It's going to be focused on helping businesses specifically to grow, and the value of it is such that it's going to allow businesses to make a meaningful investment into their business. So each grant is £3,000 in total value. There is no requirement for match funding with it, although those opportunities to show match funding, that will be a benefit for you, and you will be paid the grant before you need to purchase anything. So it's a really great opportunity to be able to help you grow. In terms of the key dates, the applications open today. So the application site is already open, and I'm going to show you how you go through the application site so that you understand exactly how it works. The applications are going to be open for 2 weeks, and so they are closed. The site will close on Friday, the 14th of February at 12 p.m. The site closes at 12 p.m. on the dot, so we always advise all registrations and all participants in any of our grant schemes that they should plan to have their grant application in the day before the application process closes. What we find is that if there's a situation whereby your IT is impacted, or you have a power cut at 11 o'clock on Friday the 14th of February, and then you're not subsequently able to submit your grant application, then it may be the case that your application then cannot be considered as part of the process. The grant award notifications will be awardees will be notified on the week commencing of the 3rd of March, and all goods or services must be procured or purchased by Monday, the 31st of March. And that is a really important part of your application, to be able to show that you're not only going to be able to benefit from the process, but you're actually going to be able to spend the money by the 31st of March. And you will need to be able to provide evidence to demonstrate that you've made those purchases to do that. So these are the key dates. Those dates are reflected within the application system, which I'm going to show you in a sec. Okay, so how to apply. So what we're going to run through is we're going to run through how to create an account on the grant application platform, how to fill in the grant application, and then what to do if you have any questions. So I'm now going to switch over to the grant site. Okay, so you should now be able to see the homepage of the grant application site, and this is the first page which you go through to be able to access this. And what I would recommend is that you have a full 2-week window for this. So the first thing is it's very important that you need to just go through and read all of the details first to make sure that you understand exactly how the grant scheme is going to operate, whether you are eligible for the scheme, and then also just understand any detail in terms of the frequently asked questions, details around the terms and conditions, and also around the privacy policy. Okay, so but all the details are in here. So the grant is worth £3,000. And it's supporting business innovation, supporting business growth. That's what we want to see within those applications. So the details are in there. You can also look at things like the frequently asked questions, and that will show you particularly areas around things like eligibility, what you can use the funding for, what costs are not eligible, and so forth. So it's really clear in terms of the information around that. Obviously, there will always be questions, and so if you have any questions up here, you can see that there is an email address, and that's rdc@smartersociety.org. That will go through to our grants team, and they will respond back to you with any information. And if we have any specific questions that we think may benefit others, we will update those on the frequently asked questions. So it's important to go back and take a look at those frequently asked questions as well, to be able to do that. Our privacy policy is here, and also the terms and conditions. So the first step is to be able to actually set up an account. And so what you will do here is when you go through on the home page, there will be a button here that allows you to be able to create your grant account. I've already created my grant account, and so the button now talks about my application, but that's the first stage, and you will click on that, and that will allow you to be able to set up your user account. So you will need to provide your name, your email address, and a password, and you will also need to read and confirm that you've read the privacy policy. Once you have done that, that will then allow you to be able to create your account and then move into the application. Again, if you have any issues associated with this, you just need to drop an email. You will be required to verify your email address. And so what happens is that the system will send you an email, and then you click on that, and then that will verify your account, so that we make sure that we've got the right email address for you. So if we need to communicate with you, so for example, if you're successful, we want to make sure that we're obviously communicating with your email address and making sure that we can communicate with you correctly. So once you've set your account up, you can then go into your account, and you will be faced with some details here. So the first thing is the timer for the grant application window, and that shows you exactly how long you have to be able to put your grant application in there, and you can plan that out. And so it's really important to be thinking about how you're going to apply to this, and making sure that you have set within your calendar a reminder to give you time to put that application in. Make sure that it's submitted once you've done that. Once you go through the process, you'll find actually that the application for this is very straightforward. Clear there, and then there's a button to start my application. So nice and simple. And then that allows you to go into the application form. And what will happen is you can then start to add the details of yourself and also your organisation, so that you can put all the information in there and make sure that we have all the details in there. And it's really important that you provide as clear and as well set out information as possible, so that when we're going through and making sure, doing eligibility checks, which is what we do, that we ensure that. And I think particularly being able to demonstrate that you are based within the Rochford district area, that is a key requirement, and you will need to not only show your address in there, but you will need to provide evidence that you are operating within the area as well. Each of these questions will be provided, and so we want to understand if you know the number of employees that you have, the date trading commenced, the business website, and so forth, and where we require you to upload information. There will be a little piece here. The system is fully secure. So when you are uploading documents on there, those documents are stored securely and are encrypted as well. And the reason that we require the address information and the bank statement information is so that we can validate that you're based within the area, and also if you are successful, we need to make sure that the bank account that we're paying to, that we have clear evidence trail as to which bank account we are paying into. Okay, so let's put in, that's right. So the system will then allow you to go into the main part of the application. So we want to understand about your business, and we also want to understand exactly how the grant will help your business to grow. And I'll talk a little bit about generally about how best to respond to business growth grant schemes in a little bit. But this is the section where you're going to explain exactly how the grant is going to help you to grow, and also you're going to explain exactly what you're going to be spending the grant on. So the grant funding is £3,000, but you may decide that actually you're looking to do a more ambitious project than that. So you might decide that this is a £5,000 project. You're going to bring in some match funding, and match funding is really another word for just saying either that you yourself have put the funding in there, or alternatively, if you have a separate source of funding available that is going to be able to be made available and spent by the 31st of March, you can also consider that going in there, and that's the reason why we put the total budget in there. But the award will be a straight award, and it's one value, which is £3,000. We want to understand how you will spend the grant. So we want to understand exactly what you're going to be spending the grant on, and then if there is a single purchase, that will be £2,500 or more, you may be asked to be able to provide evidence that you've got 3 written quotations for that to ensure that you're demonstrating that the money that you're being provided with, that you're getting best value for it. There's a section here to be able to upload quotations on there, and we would strongly recommend that any applicant provide quotations. The provision of quotations shows that that you have thought carefully about your grant application, and it also shows that you will be ready to be able to spend the money once the award happens, week commencing the 3rd of March. We recognise that it's a tight time frame to be able to do that. That time frame is immovable. So if you've already gone out and selected your suppliers and you've got quotations for them, that demonstrates that you're going to be ready to be able to go forward with it. Okay, then moving forward through to the next phase. This is a data collection process around diversity and protected characteristics. The data for this is collected on an aggregate basis, so it's not personally linked to you. But what this does is it helps Rochford District Council and the UK government to understand trends across different protected characteristics, and also looking at how best to be able to support different types of entrepreneurs in future programs. So that's the reason why these questions are asked. Within each of these, there is the opportunity to be able to answer prefer not to say as well. And then once you've got to that, then because I haven't filled in any of the questions, you can't see that. But once you've filled in all of the questions, they will all be displayed on the final page. And you can go in and then you can check your application that it's gone through. And then once you've checked your application, you will then need to press save and continue to be able to move forward and to submit that. And the system will stop you from submitting unless you have completed all of the required fields in there. So there are some fields that are required, some fields that are not required, and so you'll need to fill those in. Once you have submitted your application then that there is no opportunity to be able to take the application back. So you need to check it very carefully before you press the submit button. If you have any issues through the process, or if you have any technical issues, or if for some reason the website isn't working, then just take a record of that email address, rdc@smartersociety.org, and our team will be back to you and check that out. So it's a really simple process to go through. Just a couple of top tips before I move back to the presentation. The homepage is rdc.smartergrants, so not Smarter Society, smartergrants.org. And that will take you through to the homepage, which has got the frequently asked questions in there. And that's a really good place to start to look at eligibility requirements, to also look at the sort of things that you can spend the money on, to look at the sort of things that you can't spend the money on, and so forth. So let's just take a quick look at the FAQ. So just thinking about the eligibility requirements, I think is an important one. So the scheme is open to any sole traders, micro businesses, small businesses, and any community interest companies. So the scheme is open to a broad number of different organisations. To be a small business, you must be an organisation that employs less than 50 full-time employees and has an annual turnover of less than 10.2 million pounds per annum, or 5.1 million or less on your balance sheet. So that's the definition of a small business. And if you're under that, then you are eligible for this. You must be based in the Rochford district. And if you've got any questions or queries around that, then there is a really neat website which is called Find Local Council. And you can put the postcode of your office, or if you operate from home, you can put the postcode of your home, and then you can just check that you are operating within Rochford District Council. If If you aren't, then you are not eligible for this grant scheme, because you'll be required to provide evidence to demonstrate that. If you go through the full application process and you don't provide that evidence for that you're based within the area, then immediately your grant application will be excluded. So it's a really important part of it. You must have a UK bank account, and you must have been trading for at least 24 months. So, and we do a number of different checks around that to be able to demonstrate that. It will be up to you to be able to demonstrate that you have been trading for 24 months. So, that's a key part of it. And I think the thing is that within your application, you need to just explain to us, if, for example, you don't have, you're a limited company, but you didn't have 2 years worth of accounts, and the reason was that you were a sole trader, you should be able to demonstrate that as a sole trader, perhaps either that you can demonstrate that through your social media, and that your social media has been operating and indicating that you've been trading for that. So that's what we want to see. There is also something called the confirmation of alignment to the state aid maximum value requirements. Now, it is unlikely that you will be breaching these, but individually there is a maximum amount of state aid that you are that you can receive. Before that, there is a part of one of the steps within the process is to confirm that, and the value is over £1 million. So if you've not had £1 million of state aid in the form of grants or loans, then that won't apply to you. Next, there's some detail around what you can use the funding for, so you have a very broad range of opportunities to be able to use the funding, because the thing is that different businesses require different things to grow, and you know what your business needs to grow. You are the person that knows best. So that's why the grant scheme has been offered out in such a broad manner. I think this is a really progressive way of delivering grants. So what it means is that you can consider really any type of purchase in terms of things like potentially new software or IT equipment, and that might allow you to be able to offer a new or extended service which will allow your business to grow. Perhaps you might say that this will allow you to be able to invest in a new website or extend your digital presence, and that will allow you to grow as well. Also thinking about promotion and marketing materials, being able to invest in those and grow. Perhaps it's specific specialist consultancy or mentoring that you're looking for, which will allow you to be able to look at how you can expand your business and grow. And I think within good grant applications that focus on business growth, it's all about how the grant application explains exactly how the money that you're going to spend is then going to translate into growth for your business. And really good applications for business growth don't just talk about confirming that it will help the business to grow. They'll explain exactly why it helps the business to grow, the sorts of customers that are going to be attracted to this, how much the business is going to grow in terms of sales turnover or in terms of profitability, and it gives a really clear case as to why that is. And if you put that into your application, then that's going to give you the best possible chance in terms of doing that. Be as specific as you can with your grant application, and that will help you to in terms of how your grant will be selected. Just a few things to highlight. So there's a big list here of costs that are not eligible, and I think that these generally are reasonably practical and easy to understand. But I think things in terms of just being aware of this. So gift vouchers would not be eligible. You are not allowed to use the grant to fund staff salaries. Or alternatively, you're not allowed to use the grant to fund business as usual costs. So, for example, if you have an office and you pay a monthly rent on that office, that is a business as usual cost, and the grant scheme cannot be used for that. So if you put down that that your application, even in part, is going to be used for that, then it is likely that your grant will be excluded from the assessment process. Okay, the second tip around that is to when you're going through the questions, is to read the questions and think carefully about how it might be assessed. Think about some of the tips that I've told you that will benefit you in terms of general grant schemes. But also think about the word limits in there, and the if we go to the application, there are so for the two questions that will be assessed in terms of how you're going to use the grant and how it's going to help your business to grow. You have a maximum of 250 words. Okay, so 250 words might seem like a lot, but once you start writing, actually it's really easy to use that up, and it's really important for you to be as specific as possible within there. So that's the details. The final tip, of course, is just about how you were to get any support. So you can check up here your email, rdc@smartersociety.org, and one of our team will come back to you and answer your questions and make sure that you are fully supported around it. Okay, so we're just going to go back to the presentation. And so we've now been through the application process. I'm sure many of you have started to register already. So just thinking about how the grant is going to be assessed. And so just to be clear about, we do not make any of the selections. So if you ask us or send a question to us asking about how are you marking the grants or so forth, we don't go through the selection process. So we are not able to communicate anything around that. Also, because of the nature of the grant, there will be a lot of applications. So once your grant is in, there will not be an opportunity to receive any individual feedback. And if that's something that you're looking for, I'm afraid that's not part of this grant process. And you need to consider that within your decision as to whether you are going to apply for the grant. So you will not be able to receive any individual feedback. The feedback that you will receive with the grant will be either that you have been awarded the grant and then you will be required to go through some steps to sign a formal grant agreement, which is a little bit like a contract. Alternatively, you will be notified that you have been unsuccessful with the grant, and you will be provided with some other opportunities for other local support. In terms of how the grant is going to be assessed, so we talked a bit about the eligibility requirements and just making sure that you are eligible for the grant. The other thing that's really important is around feasibility. And what feasibility means is that, are you able to spend the grant within the time frame? You need to be able to have completed the purchase within the time frame. And so some of the challenges around this would be, if you were to propose that you were going to book a training course that was happening later in the year, past the end of March, then that means that the money is unlikely to have been spent by the end of March, and so therefore the feasibility of that means that it's unlikely that you will be able to fulfill all the requirements of the grant, so therefore your grant would be excluded. So it's really important that you can make that purchase by the end of March. We looked at the two questions, the grant usage and how it will benefit you. So those two questions will be evaluated. And then also, if you have the opportunity to add any match funding, whether that's your own match funding or whether that's coming from another grant or another charitable organisation or anything like that, that's also a really good opportunity. We like to see the opportunity for match funding, because it shows that it's not just this grant scheme. It shows that you're also putting extra funding in there. So please highlight anything with regards to that. And that, I think, is the key points around the scheme. So it's a really exciting scheme for any of the businesses within Rochford. We're delighted to be able to have launched this, and we think that over the next 2 weeks, is an opportunity to be able to put forward some really interesting applications, and also for you to think really broadly about how you could use the money to help you grow within the area. So we, from this point forward, what we would like to say is to really wish you luck with your application. We're here to support you all of the way in terms of your access to the system and giving you the best chance to be able to do that. And I think that the key point around this is to make sure that you give yourself enough time over the next 2 weeks so that by the 13th of February you have submitted your application, recognising that the closing date is the 14th of February at 12 p.m. So now we are going to move into the Q&A process. Excuse me. And what we'll do is to just run through the questions as they come. So the first question that's come up is a question around, can the grant be used for work that has already been started? But the work has already been invoiced, but the work is not completed. So no, there needs to be. This may well be a new project on an existing service, but it needs to be extremely clear that the work on this has not started already. So if you were talking about a website, what would be acceptable would be if you were adding a new shop facility to your existing website. That would be fine. However, what wouldn't be acceptable is if you had a new website that you were developing, you had already gone through much of the development process, and you had already invoiced you had already been invoiced for the website, and then this grant would effectively contribute to the cost of that. That would not be acceptable. Okay. So the next question on there is a question. So is from a sole trader that lives in Rochford, but uses a virtual business address outside of Rochford. Is this okay? So that's actually quite a regular occurrence with this. If a sole trader is living in Rochford and you are operating your business in Rochford, then that is absolutely fine, and you are likely to be eligible based on all of the other requirements for eligibility. What you'll need to be able to demonstrate is that that you have an address within Rochford, and B, that you are operating in Rochford. I think that they're the two key requirements. And so to let people understand why you might have a virtual address. So for example, if your registered address is you are using your accountant's offices and your accountants are not based within Rochford, that may be why that's happening, or you may have a virtual registered office address, and that's the reason why that situation may happen. So you'll just need to explain that within your application. Okay, so the second question is the next question around this is how much detail should go into the application? Is it a case of the more the better, or to prefer a high level overview? Well, you have a word limit within each of the two questions around how you're going to use the grant and what the grant is going to be, how the grant is going to benefit you. You have 250 words. The important thing when you are doing a growth grant application is to be as specific as possible. It's really important to be specific. If you make statements in there about general growth of your business, versus if an applicant made a statement to say that they were investing in a particular piece of equipment and that they had conducted market research to show that if they were to offer this service, it would help them to increase their sales by 20%, and that would then increase their profit by an extra 15%. It's much better to be more specific because it shows that you understand exactly what the grant is going to be used for, and it shows that you have there's a much higher chance of the grant actually generating growth versus an application that just says, yeah, it's definitely going to show growth in my business, but it doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily know where it is. So the suggestion is to be as specific as possible, but obviously within the word count of 250 words. So the next question is around, can you resubmit if you want to amend your application? So no, you are not able to resubmit your application. You can only submit once, and that's what you need to do, is to therefore you need to check that the application's in there. What you can do is that you do not need to do your application all in one go. Once you've started the application, you can then go back in and save it, and then go back in and amend the application. So it's possible to be able to do that, but once you've submitted, then you cannot do that, and you cannot. You can only apply once. So a question for that is more weight given to proposals where the spend or the grant is spent locally within Essex. So this is not necessarily a primary consideration, but I think that it is always beneficial to be able to highlight within the selection process, it's within your grant, that you are going to be spending the money locally. And I think that when the consideration happens in the assessment process, then it is likely that will be, if there is more grants than if there are more applications than grants, then local spend may well be something that comes in terms of the consideration process. Then just running through, we've got some other questions. So a really good question is, are the grants assessed and awarded on a first come, first served basis? Or will we be waiting until the closing date to assess all the grants before choosing them? So really great question. So there is no benefit in putting your application in early. All grants will be assessed for eligibility and for quality in exactly the same way, and that assessment process will happen after the closing date. So as long as your application has been put in by the 14th of February at 12 p.m, then you are absolutely able to do that. So a question around just a question around the usage of the grant. So are you able to look to break the grant and spend it across different things? So can you make multiple purchases with the grant, I think is that question. Yes, that's absolutely fine. You need to explain exactly how you're going to use that, but you don't need to necessarily just spend the grant on one thing. So that is a clarification. How many grants are available? So each of the grants is £3,000, and we have the total grant pot is £30,000. So that's clear. Some other questions in there. So there's also a question around, can the grant be put towards two different things? Yes, that's fine. So a good point around this is the grant treated as income and then liable for taxation? So really good point in terms of that. So we will not provide you with financial advice. So if you want formal advice around this, then we would suggest that you speak to an accountant. But in essence, what will happen is that the grant will come into your accounts as income, but will then go out because it will be fully allocated as an expense. So in essence, what happens is that it effectively it doesn't make any difference in terms of your tax budget, because you will fully spend all of the grant on a specific cost. So that and also if you are VAT registered, then you are able to claim back the VAT on any purchases with that. Your grant application, if you are VAT registered, must be based on the purchase cost ex VAT, not inclusive of VAT. Okay, and then we've had a question in about can you pay in full for a training course that may take place after March the 31st? So what we will do with that question actually is that we will come back and just clarify that question within the FAQs. We will just make sure of that, because what we do know is that the purchase must take place by the 31st of March, but we will just clarify whether or not we can that training course can happen. I think our preference will be that all expenditure for equipment and services is complete by then. But what we will do is that we will make sure that all of the FAQs are updated, and for that particular question, they will be updated by end of play on Tuesday. So you'll be able to check whether that's happened, and we'll make sure that we make you aware of that. We'll also drop out an email to any participants just to confirm the details of the actual grant site itself. Make sure that you're clear on the support so that you can send an email to us, and we'll also just come back to you on that specific point just so to make sure that that's clear. So they are all of the questions that we have had so far. I'm sure that there will be other questions come through, and we will make sure that we answer them and that we update the FAQs where possible. If you want to start to your grant application, the application site is open now, so you are very welcome to go in there. And then if you have any further questions, you will know the process for that. What I'd like to do finally is to just wish you the very best of luck, and we think this is a great opportunity. This is going to be an uncertain year for many businesses, and I think that this grant scheme is a really positive start to the year. So we wish you luck in terms of your application, and we will be here to provide any support that you need. So other than that, we'd like to thank you for attending the webinar, and we will look forward to receiving your applications over the next 2 weeks. Thank you.